With the average human attention span being less than a goldfish, how do we actually get better at focusing and concentrating?
Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to Carlie's Couch. We are back again another Monday.
Hello. I'm excited. I feel like, we in the 200s now. We've been doing this for a minute.
But you know what I've noticed is that over time, I feel like I've been seeing different people that engage with the podcast. So I like that. I like seeing new folks, especially new folks who are leaving comments and questions and telling their stories. So definitely appreciate that engagement. Please keep it up. Continue. Tag me, Lextopia, tag Carlie, CC Fierce, or Carlie Carpio in your comments or in like posts and things like that, so we can be sure to see them. Because half the time, I know it's Carlie who be Carlie's couching it up online, so sometimes I have to see him like secondhand, so I'll be late trying to comment back on stuff sometimes. So definitely feel free to add me. To add us if you ever have anything to say, which we hope you do.
I was about to say, add all 3 profiles, but they know it's me because it's always so many exclamation points. It's
on the replies. They don't know.
I don't know, bro. If they listen to 2 episodes, they know for sure. But also leave us some reviews. So I didn't realize that I hadn't left us a review on Spotify, and I did the other day, and I was like, oh.
Not you didn't leave yourself a review. What did you say?
5 stars, obviously. I didn't write anything.
First of all, y'all are on point every time.
Wow. Always speaking to my life. I love it. But yeah, speaking to my life. So this week's episode, I'm pretty excited about, but I know it's something I really need to work on. So I listened to Ryan Daniel Moran. He has a podcast called Capitalism, but he also runs capitalism.com. And his goal is to help create other millionaires through entrepreneurship. And so I had signed up for one of his courses the other day, or like a couple weeks ago. And it was like Zoom calls every morning for an hour, so only an hour, but from 7 a.m., because, it's 10 a.m. East Coast time, so your girl had to get up earlier so I could have my me time and then do that. But the class was from 7 to 8 a.m. Every day, like Monday through Friday. And I was like, oh, that's easy, until I started taking the class, and I realized that my attention span, I was struggling. Every 5 seconds, I'm, looking for my phone, and I really was, ready. I had my paper out, my pen, I was in it, because I'm working on becoming a millionaire. So had all that stuff, but then I realized that I was very much struggling, even though I was so excited and very interested in the subject matter and paid for it. I paid for it. I got up. I did all the things I needed to do. But when I was actually in the moment, I was struggling with listening and being present, and my brain was trying to be everywhere else but what I was doing.
You answered something that I was wondering is I wonder if it was something you paid for too. And I like that you emphasized the fact that it's not that you didn't want to be there. Not like you didn't want to do it. We can really want to do something and be trying to listen to a friend or watch something for information or even watching a TV show and realize you cannot keep your focus on what's in front of you or what's at hand. And to me, that signifies that it's something beyond just, your desire to want to do it. It's your body or your brain is literally trying to pull you to something else, trying to distract you. I feel in general, maybe it's an overstimulation thing too, to be honest, especially with our phones. We're so used to, looking at stuff, notifications, talk to somebody, getting quick replies, things like that. We have gotten ourselves used to such high stimulation that now it is harder to focus on something, even though that's stimulating, right? Imagine back in the day, because I think about this, I watch Boardwalk Empire right now, and I watch a lot of period pieces and things too. So I always kind of imagine man, they was really sitting around the radio, you know what I mean? Or kids, and even in my age, same too, but could have a stick and ride it like a horse outside, and now the stimulation that is needed for children is an iPad and the phone and a game and watching this and doing that. And so it's just so much different. And I think that it's because of all the overstimulation that it's hard to focus.
For sure. I used to be one of those content kids outside with nothing. I can also swim in a pool by myself for hours, when I was little, and just be out there.
But you probably still can do both of those things, right? I feel we could still enjoy our time, but you do feel that call to also pick up of something or do something else.
Or if it's been too long, I'm where's my phone? Oh man. Listen, I think a lot of it is habit, but I would say it's that we've got accustomed to constant stimulation. And so it's kind of like a drug. Whenever we don't have it, it's where is it? So for sure.
I think that, and also it can be a way of distracting your mind from being still. Maybe there's some type of, maybe this isn't the right phrasing, but like almost like an addiction to always moving. So outside of like focusing on a thing, for example, I know this to be true for trying to stay present. So like trying to focus on one thing at a time, kind of, instead of like you doing this, then doing that, then doing that. It's almost like you are addicted to having a lot of things to think about and a lot of things to do that you're always looking for something else to do. So I think there's something kind of to that too, where sometimes we just, as an individual, that might be like a personality type or some place that we've gotten to where we are looking for more. Like, it's like we're not okay with one thing at a time.
Yeah, I would say that. So becoming accustomed to it, but also a lot of the things that we do dump dopamine into our system, and so they are really all connected to like the brain and that need of like fulfillment or like the desire for connection. And you feel like you're connecting with people when you're on social media, but it's like false connection because you're not really, most of the time at least. And so I think it's a habit, we get accustomed to it, but then also the ways it connects to our emotions and brain also.
And you already said that you notice it's something that you have difficulty with now, or that you expressed in that story of what happened with that course. But would you say that in your mind, do you remember always being like that, or did it happen gradually? Like, what do you think that looked like for you?
I don't think it's always been like this. I still do pretty well most of the time with reading comprehension and like things like that. I notice that I'm pretty good, but I do think that my addiction to picking up my phone, like this is probably the worst that it's been, because I definitely turned my phone off during that course and still try to pick that hoe up was like, oh. So I think that I noticed that more, but I also haven't tried to stop doing it or had an activity to where I couldn't do it. So I think that's maybe why I notice it more now.
Because you're trying to watch it. That's fair. So not necessarily that you do it more, but you notice it more. For me, I would say that I know I have always had a little bit of trouble focusing because I've always tried to be doing a lot of things at the same time. And I don't know if it's even trouble or if that's just, you know, kind of everybody, what they're kind of like at some point. But definitely because of social and phone, in the last probably maybe 10 years of life, that has become exponentially more of a barrier to focusing. Just off top, because same thing about picking your phone up every few seconds. And I have all my notifications and everything turned off. And it's like, quite frankly, I don't even need them because I pick it up every 5 seconds, like to see, did somebody text me, or did this happen, or did that happen? Also, I believe that over time, I think that my anxiety has changed a little bit, and my ability to pay attention has changed just over time with having more things to do or think about. I think as a business owner or as somebody who's spent a lot of time like in survival mode type, you know, it's like you always just have a lot on your brain. And so I think that contributes to making it harder to focus when you're either in a space of like trying to figure out like, all right, how are you gonna make something work, or, you know, what's going on with your life, or when there's a lot of just responsibilities on the table for you. So that could be part of it too. Yeah, and also I think my health habits too also contributed to it. So I know we'll probably get into that a little bit more, but for me, I definitely, and I'm glad you brought up this episode, because even just as recent as yesterday or the day before, I placed an order for some supplements, and we'll get into all this again too. But yeah, I've been recently thinking a lot about brain health in regards to this. And you know, just sometimes you feel just a little foggy, and sometimes you just straight up just are not focusing. So hopefully in this episode, if you can identify with what we're talking about, we can understand like why we can have trouble focusing and talk about some ways to improve that level of focus.
Yeah. So I think the first place, and we've discussed a lot about this, but when I was doing research, I was like, you know, what kind of leads to trouble focusing and concentrating? And one of the first things that popped up, which you mentioned, is like underlying conditions. So depression, anxiety, stress. If you are living in survival mode, it's very hard to focus because you're fighting for your life, like inside of your body and inside of your immune system. And other mental health disorders, sleep disorders, and nutrition deficiencies. So if your body is not operating properly, hormone imbalances and trauma could all be things that make it harder for you to focus or concentrate.
Mm-hmm. And all of these things kind of tie together because your mental health is your health, and your health is going to be a big part of your inability to focus or to pay attention. In regards to underlying conditions, also consider in the times we're in now, COVID, a lot of folks who either like me, like we got COVID before vaccination, and so we experienced different types of symptoms. Mm-hmm. And then there's getting vaccinated, and then COVID, how people experience COVID after that was very different. Mm-hmm. I got that again. And then even now, it's continuing to have people who have COVID, but they're getting the symptoms differently. However, I have been looking into it because it's like, you know what? There's a lot of things that I notice are different with me. And you can look up long COVID and what that means and like how it has continued to affect people even when they've had it before or just kind of have certain lingering symptoms. But quite frankly, that's affecting a lot of people. And they said like within like 4 months to 8 months, even after having COVID, there are certain mental health things that they see in their different brain scans, whether that's your inflammation around the brain, which is a brain issue anyway, right? If you lost your taste and your ability to smell, that's a brain thing. And so consider even those types of things that have been happening in life with the pandemic could potentially be, you know, something that's affecting your ability to focus or concentrate. And it may be something to think about or look into to see like, has my mental health kind of changed since then? I know some people who said like, yo, like, or asked me like, yo, did you feel kind of depressed like after you had COVID, or, you know, different things like that. It really can affect you in all of those different ways too. So consider that, as well as, you know, you might have felt, you know, a little off since then, and what can you do maybe for your mental and brain health specifically to that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That is important and very timely. So if you notice any big changes in mood or mental health, any of that stuff could be related to that. Another thing that could be related also to long COVID and illnesses is medication side effects could make it harder for you to concentrate. I sound like one of those commercials right now. Do you have trouble concentrating? And
they gonna tell you everything you're gonna give up for it though, but
but man, like, yeah, we're gonna solve coughing. One of the side effects, death, coughing, right. All that. But it can really slow down your processing speed and make it harder for you to concentrate and like think clearly. So if you are on medications, and I'm not sure which ones, so definitely check on all the ones that you're on, but that could be a side effect of that.
And then also, like, thanks to Carlie, the podcast you just shared with me the other day, they're talking about how even depending on like your brain type and personality, et cetera, that certain drugs that are for attention may not be the ones for you either. So you really do have to learn your body, know yourself, and then also really pay attention to what you're consuming, because some of those medications that may be good for somebody else or may not have a certain effect with other people and may for you. So that's just something to also watch. I'm going to skip down because also I would put this in the same category as medication is other substances that you put in your body. Number one, alcohol. Number two, marijuana are two things that really can affect your focus. And as an avid smoker, I also for sure know like it does mess with your memory. It can mess with your memory. I feel a lot of times it can slow you down and make you feel less anxious and all of those things. But over time, you know, there are certain things that I've started to notice personally. Let me know if you do or don't. I know most people who consume marijuana, CBD, or THC tend to focus on how they see positive effects. But when it comes down to it, like the body is still smoke in the body and it still affects you in different ways. So alcohol, I think everybody knows by now. I saw something the other day that said alcohol drinking is down by like a lot of %. So I think it's kind of becoming like the less cool thing to do, but definitely we know alcohol is basically consuming toxin as well.
Being tired, so not getting enough sleep can definitely mess with you. Like it's one night of not getting enough sleep affects everything, like your immune system, your parasympathetic nervous system, your emotions, your appetite, your metabolism, like one night of missed sleep, which sounds crazy, but it is very true. So looking at your sleeping habits and making sure you're not overexerting yourself and that you're getting the rest that you need.
I feel like the body on a low amount of sleep feels worse than like drinking and other things too.
Absolutely.
Like, if that made sense, kind of what I'm trying to say. Like if you haven't slept, like your brain, you feel like delirious and you definitely can't concentrate. We've all had to like stay up before working on a project or doing something. And it's funny because you may stay up all night trying to prep for something or do something, and really you're just impairing your brain for whatever that meeting is or presentation or whatever. Like, so yeah, over the years, I've definitely become I'm a go to sleep and deal with it in the morning person. And it's never let me wrong. Like, I'm going to choose sleep every time.
Same. And I have not been this way. I was the let me stay up all night person and then wonder why I wasn't doing well. And for those people who are like, actually, I can only get 2 hours of sleep. No, you can't. Scientifically, your body is not doing well. Even though I would say that if I do research brain types, I wonder if there are some that can survive off less sleep. But I don't think 2 hours is sufficient for anybody. So make sure you're taking care of yourself with that.
Yeah, there's got to be. I mean, and we all know a lot of people who are like, they don't sleep a lot and they function highly and differently, or they function more at night. And that's fine. You know, every time tell people like, you should probably try to get as much sleep as you can and see if you feel different. But yeah, do your thing. As for me in my house, I'm going to be in bed at 9 o'clock.
We going to get some sleep.
Yeah. The rest of them we kind of had already mentioned before, but like being overwhelmed, having too much to do, I think that kind of leads with anxiety, can lead into mental health, et cetera. And just, you know, when you're constantly have all these thoughts, of course, it's hard to concentrate. And then we talked about information overload as well.
One I thought was interesting was that they were like, maybe you don't have an issue concentrating. Maybe you just don't like what you're doing. And you're fighting against it. And so some signs that...
Ooh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, not come back to the signs of it, but not just if you don't like what you're doing, but if in those moments you're afraid, like, you know, when you're avoiding that email, we talk about this all the time, but like those, it's almost like you're fighting yourself either way. So yeah, that's a good one, I think, as well.
Yeah, so you might actually just be avoiding, you know, taking that risk or taking that jump or avoiding embarrassing yourself or apologizing. Let's say you messed up on something and you got to own up to it, you know, or don't like it. But they said it's probably more so a concentration issue if you are struggling to perform normal daily tasks, if you have restlessness, like you feel a more consistent mental cloudiness, brain fog, lack of energy, you notice yourself making like careless mistakes or consistently missing important deadlines and things. I think that that's probably easier to notice that it could be a concentration issue as opposed to something that you just don't want to do.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you have any of these, or majority, or just a few of them?
Let's see. I definitely have a few.
I'm about to say, because I know
I definitely have a few of these.
I have trouble focusing and concentrating because I literally have them, like most of these, like minus missing important deadlines for the most part. But like I literally I do this often. I'll catch myself in the morning about to pour like my coffee, or I'll pour the coffee into the wrong thing, or like I'm pouring the cream into the grinder and I'm like, Lex, like just slow down. Like, and it's like I'm just doing things and it's weird. Or like I very, very often will like walk to the room and forget what's going on. Or even in preparing this episode, it was like 3 times that I like asked you a question or I stopped for a second and then I totally forgot what I was in the middle of writing or doing. So that does happen often. And so that's definitely a memory thing for sure.
I'm laughing because when I write notes in my phone when I get episode ideas, and when I was trying to write this episode in my notes in my phone, I picked it up 3 different times and forgot what I was doing. I got on Instagram, got on TikTok, checked my email, did a text message. I was like, what the hell am I on my phone for right now?
That's definitely a lack of focus, but it's almost like that's connected directly to having that distraction. Because we do that often where it's like you pick your phone up to do one thing and you end up on these addictive apps, which they are created to be that way. So that really is something to like start being aware of.
And so if you notice any of those or you sounded like me and Lex, then you might have an issue with concentration. So now that we know kind of what it looks like and how it can manifest, what are some things we can do to get better?
One of the things that I do, and I really use this as a practice in listening effectively, but also that's directly related, for me at least, to focusing and concentrating, right, when somebody else is talking. So I will often catch like, okay, so this person is about to tell a story, they're talking, and I will make like a conscious effort to be like, I'm going to listen to every word they're saying and not say anything till they're done, all those things, right? And then I can notice when I'm like, damn, like starting to look off, or like, or if I'm thinking about something in my head, I'm like, nope, they're talking, like listen to them talk. So I think that's something you could practice when you're around other people, letting them speak, and like at the same time you're practicing listening, you're practicing really like concentrating on one thing and focusing on one thing. Or I reach for my phone, I'm like, damn, and then I'll be like, yo, how rude am I? Because like I literally do everything in the world. I walk away as people are talking. Like that's bad. Like I'll start backing up, like yeah, and start trying to do something else, and catch yourself, and then try to correct it.
I think those are great. In addition to that, I would say I noticed that I would try to be still. And I'm just thinking about on the Zoom because that's where the class was that inspired this whole podcast. And I noticed I would start doing different stuff, and I had a pen and paper, and I was like, girl, just put your hands down and sit there. Focus. Look at the person. So
and y'all was on like a real Zoom, huh?
Yeah, we were on a live Zoom. And in the replay, I'm probably like, like, why is she? Okay, anyways. Something else that I do is this next one, brain training. I used to have this brain training app, but I deleted it because it got boring to me. But Sudoku, chess, memory games, word games, like things like that are supposed to be really good for your brain, and they've shown significant improvement, especially in older people, as they get older, to help them still build neurological skills and those pathways as our brains, deteriorate as we get older. That can kind of offset some of that.
Yeah, that is important. Also, get more sleep. Just make an attempt to go to sleep a little earlier. That's easier, I would say, than trying to wake up later or early or whatever. But just try to go to sleep a little earlier. I had a friend actually the other day tell me like, yo, I thought about you because I was in bed like 9:30. I was like, this feels real good right now. And like, he's like, when I woke up in the morning, I was like, yeah, I'm extra refreshed. And I was like, yeah, I don't know why. Like people be hating on going to sleep. But try it, get more sleep if you want to see if it improves your focus.
Another one is to do the Pomodoro Method, and we've talked about that before, but it's setting a timer when you're working either in like 20-minute segments and then 5 minutes of rest. That way you're focused on one specific thing for that time period, and it doesn't have to be work. Like if you want to read for 20 minutes and then have a 5-minute break, or work on something, or clean your house for 20 minutes, or do the dishes, or whatever your thing is, but just practice focusing on a singular activity for a set amount of time.
Yeah, and having that timer is a good way to like keep you on track with that. Another thing is diet and supplement. So for sure, you got to eat foods that are going to be good and right for your body. So that's all those leafy vegetables and all the things that I don't hardly eat enough of. So I'm not preaching to y'all. Also, omega-3 is super good for the body, especially DHA, where if you get most omega-3s, you'll see it has EHA and DHA, mostly EHA. But I found a brand that has very, very high DHA, so I could try to take enough supplement to get at least 2,000 milligrams a day. I just ordered the other day some GABA, some 5-HTP, and some L-tyrosine, I think is the third one, which when I was talking earlier about like COVID and all that, I was watching something from Dr. Amen, A-M-E-N, who's a brain specialist. And he was talking about how brain inflammation and results of like long COVID, if you're feeling certain ways, different like supplements that are good for neurotransmitters and good for like the specifically for brain health. So I got a few of those. So we'll see if that's helpful at all as well. Magnesium, other supplements. So just like kind of maybe do some study around supplements that you may not be getting, what you may need, and just look into that as a way of eating better and putting those things into your body.
Yeah, and as always, consult a doctor if you have questions, but specifically about your body or medications. But magnesium is also great for sleep, and they found out that that's why a lot of people actually struggle with falling asleep and getting a good night's rest, is most women are magnesium deficient, so do some research on that. Something else you can do is comprehension when reading. So like asking yourself questions, like either if it's a fiction book or like something you're trying to learn, but making sure you really understand and that you're present with whatever material you're trying to digest. This could also probably be with some work stuff too. Like, do I actually even know what I'm looking at right now? Or am I just like going through the motions?
Yeah, I used to suck in English classes like in high school because it's like I would read. I have no problem reading, and I would read. But then when it came time to like having these class discussions about like what did this meant this and this breakdowns of this, and I'd be like, where y'all getting this from? Like, but then it would make sense as people are discussing, talking about it. I'm like, oh, I never felt like I connected deeply with like what I was reading. And even now, like I'll never sit there and ask myself probably a question like, what did I just read? Well, no, that is the only question I'll ask. But like I often, like even with the book right now, I'm like struggling. Like I'll read and then be like, wait, what? Like who is this person? Like, and it's like, dang, do I really have to start over? Because I've seen this name 500 times and I still don't know like why they talking about he's missing? Like what's going on? So focus. Like when I'm reading now, I try sometimes put my phone down or away, but too many people trying to play iPhone games with me and stuff. So I keep moving in and out, and I recognize the more time I spend specifically on a thing, the easier it is to focus on it.
So do that. And then the last one is mindfulness. So practicing meditation really does help, y'all. And I'm going to add yoga on this list too, because the whole idea behind yoga is not the physicality, is actually to teach your mind how to focus and to be present on your mat. And so it's not a loss if you're trying to meditate and your brain keeps trying to drift away and thinking about other things. The win is whenever you're able to bring it back to that present moment. So figuring out a mindfulness practice that works for your life and doing that consistently. Yeah. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Being present is for sure connected to being able to focus and to concentrate. But for sure, if you are watching a movie, if you're reading a book, if you're having a conversation with somebody, that's a great time to recognize next time, like, am I having trouble focusing? Am I really paying attention here? A lot of people need to or feel the need to do other things while they watch or do something. I was in a relationship like that where they're like, oh, I have to do other things. Like, that's just how I am. And while that may be true, I think it's still good to recognize at least like that means we need to find ways to like reel it in and to be able to focus better. Hopefully you would like to learn how to focus a little bit more on what you're doing. So we hope that you got some tips and some starter information to do your own research out of this topic, and that you're able to focus and concentrate on us for the last 27 minutes.
Hey, so hit us at Carlie's Couch, at Lextopia, CC Fierce on all the platforms. Let us know. But I'm going to be real spicy for a second and say there's actually enough scientific research to prove that nobody's good at multitasking. Nobody, actually. It decreases your efficiency in every single thing.
You just feel more comfortable.
Yeah, you just feel better because you're used to being distracted. So get spicy if you want to with me, but scientific research. Anyways. Yeah, we need some shout outs because it's been kind of blank for the last little bit. So hit us. Let us know what you're doing, what you're celebrating, how your business is growing, what you're launching, so we can celebrate you and send other people your way. And then we're going to end with the question of the week. And I'm really excited about this. I'm going to shoot it to Lexi first. But what is a fictional food you would most like to try?
A fictional food I would most like to try is the chocolate cake in Matilda that Bruce had to eat.
I did not see that.
Because that looked mad moist.
It did. Mine is the food off of Hook. So all of the different colors that Rufio, he's also the first Filipino actor I ever saw on screen. And I didn't even know that when I was little, but shout out to Rufio. But all the stuff on the table, all those colors, like, is that food good or was it just paintballs or like, was it actual things? I don't know, but I always wanted to try it.
Because they had a feast.
Yo, that shit looked delicious.
But they were pretending. Yeah, they just had stuff, but then they were just like eating like that. Yeah, we had a few of those nights back in the day.
Facts.
Had to struggle all my life. Nah, just kidding. Thank you guys for listening. As always, we hope you got something out of the episode, and we will see you next week.
Bye, y'all.